A fumbling display and a panicking party. Presidential debate. News analysis. Biden's shaky performance has Democrats discussing replacing him as nominee. President Biden hoped to build fresh momentum for his re-election bid by agreeing to debate nearly 2 months before he's to be formally nominated. Instead, his halting and disjointed performance on Thursday night prompted a wave of panic among Democrats and reopened the discussion of whether he should be the nominee at all. Over the course of 90 minutes, a recipe voiced Mr. Biden's struggled to deliver his lines and counter a sharp, though deeply dishonest former President Donald J. Trump, raising doubts about the incumbent president's ability to wage a vigorous and competitive campaign for months before the election. Rather than dispel concerns about his age, Mr. Biden, 81, made it the central issue. Democrats who have defended the president for months against his doubters, including members of his own administration, traded frenzied phone calls and text messages within minutes of the start of the debate, as it became clear that Mr. Biden was not at his sharpest. Practically in despair, some took to social media to express shock, while others privately discussed among themselves whether it was too late to persuade the president to step aside in favor of a young candidate. Biden is about to face a crescendo of calls to step aside, said a veteran Democratic strategist who has staunchly backed Mr. Biden publicly. Joe had a deep well of passion among Democrats. It has run dry. Parties exist to win. This Democrat continued. The man on the stage with Trump cannot win. The fear of Trump stifled criticism of Biden. Now that same fear is going to fuel calls for him to step down. A group of House Democrats said they were watching the debate together, and one who spoke on the condition of anonymity acknowledged that it was a disaster for Mr. Biden. The person said the group was discussing the need for a new presidential nominee. Mark Buell, a prominent donor for Mr. Biden and the Democratic Party, said after the debate that the president had to strongly consider whether he's the best person to be the nominee. Do we have time to put somebody else in there? Mr. Buell said. He added that he was not yet calling for Mr. Biden to withdraw, but that Democratic leadership has a responsibility to go to the White House and clearly show what America's thinking, because democracy is at stake here and we are all nervous. Mr. Biden's goal in accepting a general election debate earlier than ever held in presidential history was to recalibrate the contest as a choice between himself and a felon who tried to overturn an election and would in his view, destroy American democracy. If given the power of the presidency again, Mr. Biden left the CNN studio in Atlanta instead of facing a referendum on himself and his capacity that will reverberate for days, if not longer. Mr. Trump, 78, appeared to coast through the debate with little trouble, rattling up one falsehood after another without being effectively challenged. He appeared competent while avoiding the excessively overbearing demeanor that had damaged him during his post-debate with Mr. Biden in 2020, seemingly content to let his opponent stew in his own difficulties. While Mr. Trump at times rambled and uttered statements that were convoluted, hard to follow, and flatly untrue, he did so with energy and volume that covered up his misstatement, managing to stay on offense, even on issues of vulnerability for him like the January 6, 2021 attack and abortion. Mr. Biden appeared on defense much of the time, and either did not use lines teed up for him by his campaign's pre-debate advertising, or mumbled them in passing in such a way that they barely registered. Speaking with reporters afterward, Mr. Biden indicated that he had been battling a cold. "I have a sore throat," he said, but he expressed satisfaction with its showing. "I think that we did well." Asked about Democrats' concerns about his showing and called for him to consider leaving the race, he said no. It's hard to debate a liar. Mr. Biden's advisors have long dismissed any speculation about him dropping out, rejecting it as unjustified nervousness, even as he had trailed Mr. Trump in battleground state needed for victory this fall. Biden aides and allies have repeatedly challenged the polls and pointed out that predictions of Democratic defeats in recent elections have been overblown. One reason they cited for an early debate was to make clear to the public that these are the two choices and no one else will be nominated. Folks, the facts are if Joe Biden was going to step aside, he would have done so a long time ago, said Simon Sanders, a former aide to Vice President Kamala Harris. "That's not my opinion. That's literally the facts. So no, he won't be stepping aside tomorrow morning. He's the nominee, and a number of dams I suspect will be out defending him over the next few days." The campaign quickly dispatched Ms. Harris to defend the president on CNN after the debate, although even she acknowledged that it was a slow start. That's obvious to everyone. Mr. Biden had shown he could handle the job because of his many accomplishments for Americans, she said, and the Joe Biden I work with every day is someone who has performed in a way that has been about bringing people into the Oval Office. Governor Gavin Newsom of California, one of those mentioned as a possible replacement for Mr. Biden, other than Ms. Harris, brushed off talk about switching candidates. "I would never turn my back on President Biden's record," he told reporters, serving as an official surrogate for the campaign in the spin room after the debate. I would never turn my back on President Biden, and I don't know a Democrat in my party who would do so, especially after tonight. But that did not stop the speculation. Guys, the Dems should nominate someone else before it's too late. Andrew Yang, who ran against Mr. Biden for the Democratic nomination in 2020, wrote on social media before the debate had ended, adding a hashtag swap Joe out. Former Senator Claria McCaskill, Democrat of Missouri, called it a crisis, saying that her phone was blowing up with the senators, operatives, donors, and other distraught Democrats that are doing more than handwriting about what's happening next. Joe Biden had one thing he had to do tonight, and he didn't do it, she said on MSNBC. He had one thing he had to accomplish, and that was reassure America that he was up to the job at his age, and he failed at that tonight. That judgment extended beyond the political class. Mr. Biden's perceived odds of winning in the nomination plummeted within hours on PredictIt.org, a betting site that takes wagers on political events. His chances of being the party's candidate fell to 60 cents, down 26 cents, meaning that bettors essentially thought there was only a 60% chance of him being nominated, even though he swept the primaries, has no internal opponent, and controls the party apparatus. No incumbent president has dropped out of the race so late in the campaign cycle, and there was little consensus about what would happen if he were to. On Thursday night, Democrats were imagining scenarios in which party elders like Senator Chuck Schumer of New York, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi of California, and Representative James E. Clyburn of South Carolina were to intervene with Mr. Biden. There was no indication that any of them would agree to do so. Other Democrats said they feared it was too late, noting that Mr. Biden is a proud, stubborn man who has long insisted he's the best equipped to defeat Mr. Trump. Democrats have long fretted that there is no obvious successor, uncertain that Mitch Harris, Mr. Newsom, or any other party figure could rise to the challenge.